All right, good afternoon. Time is 12:01 p.m. This is a special call meeting of the Board of Trustees of United Independent School District. Today it's Wednesday, May 26, 2021. As mentioned, time is 12:01. We have board members present at the UIC boardroom at 201 Lindenwood, and we have other board members logged in online as well. If I can have roll call to establish a quorum, board members that are there present at the boardroom, we can begin with you guys.
Juan Roberto Ramirez, present.
Alisa Oliveros, present.
Francisco Castillo, present.
Ricardo Rick Rodriguez, present.
Okay. Mr. Molina, are you logged in?
You're on mute.
He's mute.
He's on mute. All right, so myself, Ramiro Belli III, let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that meeting has been duly called and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
We took it to the graduation. Sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation under God,
God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
honor to
Under the
Texas.
Texas flag, the pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
World reading.
We're all reading. All right, thank you very much. Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge. I'm not sure we have any public comments signed up for today. Is there any?
Yes, sir, we have one.
One
Yes,
public comment? Do we have that person online or are they there in person?
No, so they submitted that agenda, topic for me to read.
Go ahead, Ms. Randolph.
This is agenda items 6A, hiring freeze principals, directors positions, and 6B, hiring freeze non-instructional. For the record, Ernest Davila, organizer for the Texas State Teachers Association. The district froze everyone's pay salaries last year. As you know, not only have your employees gone way beyond the call of duty, learning new methods of instruction, technology, and assessment, but prices for everything have gone up as a direct result of the pandemic. These employees not only put their lives on the line, literally, but the lives of their loved ones as well. It is incomprehensible that 4 of our 7 UISD board members are sponsoring these action items. Here is why. Let us look at the budgets for 2017, 2018, 2018 and 19, and 2019 and 20. Let's focus on expenditure items of instruction, transportation, and facilities, maintenance and operations. All were over budgeted by millions of dollars. Instruction for fiscal year ending on August 31st, 2018 was $5,603,538. For fiscal year ending August 31st, 2019, $2,410,681. For fiscal year ending August 31st, 2020, $6,637,723,000. Transportation for fiscal year ending August 31st, 2018, how to read numbers? Over $2 million. For fiscal year ending August 31st, 2019, $354,915. For fiscal year ending August 31, 2020, $1,043,053. Facilities, maintenance and operations for fiscal year ending August 31st, 2018, $1,111,182. Fiscal year ending August 31, 2019, $2,111,282. For fiscal year ending August 31, 2020, $3,370,978. And food services for fiscal year ending August 31, 2020 was over budgeted by more than $5.8 million. The ending fund balance for fiscal year 2018 and 19 and 2020 are $85,080,556, $80,250,380, and $71,584,824, respectively. It is easy to see that the district is in good financial shape. You can use these monies to give pay raises to your employees. Your human capital is your most valued asset. On the contrary, now is the time to hire more counselors, nurses, special education staff, and other personnel to address the social, emotional, and academic impacts COVID-19 continues to have on our students and staff, not less. United ISD needs a comprehensive, evidence-based social emotional program across the district to address those students' needs. The allocation of 25,088 from the American Rescue Plan, the ESSER funds, are designed to do just that. United ISD is still pending an additional allocation of 42,512,544. Please do the right thing. Don't freeze hiring of personnel. Now is not the time. Thank you. That was Ernest Davila, organizer of the Texas State Teachers Association.
And just for the record, can you state who sponsored those agenda items?
Yes, I don't have that record, but I think it was Mr. Rick Rodriguez, Ricardo Molina, and Mr. Reyes.
Okay.
If I recall
Because you
correctly.
said 4 people, so I was curious who the 4th person
There was only,
There's only 3.
Only three.
Yes, that's correct, only three.
We thank Mr. Davila for his comments that were submitted, and they've been noted. We'll move on. That was the only public comment submitted. Is that correct? Yes.
Just for clarification, the board agenda book does say that for the imposition of a hiring freeze on non-instructional hires, that was submitted by Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Ramirez, and Mr. Billy.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to items for information only. That'll be that item A, presentation by district administration on delinquent tax law firm performance.
Good afternoon, members of the board, members of the audience, and individuals out there watching the board meeting. We have provided some information regarding our delinquent tax history. We were able to send via the superintendent's office the report, and I just wanted to kind of just let you know that this is a 20-year picture of our collections. And you can see the rates that vary from year to year. The amounts that were turned over to our delinquent tax attorneys also vary from year to year. You know, the amounts vary because there may have been different situations at that time. If you all can recall, 2008, we had a great recession. And so there were maybe a lot of homeowners that weren't paying their taxes on time. And then, you know, maybe move over to the 2016, 2017, those could have been delinquent rolls of the delinquent rolls from maybe the oil and gas companies that suffered from the lowering of fuel rates. So it's hard to just say, oh yeah, this is the amount that will always roll over to our delinquent tax attorneys. But what I do want to share with the board is we do budget a certain amount that we would like to collect every year. We do know there's going to be, as of July 1st, values that would be turned over to our delinquent tax attorneys. And we do know that our attorneys would take that role and study it carefully and see what accounts are still collectible. And so I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen there, and there's a lot of variation of percentage collections, but there's a lot of history behind these numbers. If you want to go to the next screen.
Oh, can I make a comment?
Yes, yes.
If you go back to the previous slide, and I understand what you're saying about variations in numbers and of course the increasing the home values and what have you. But I do see some significant numbers that pop out to me. And I know you mentioned 2008, so I won't pick that year as being a recession. But if you look at, let's go back to prior to the recession, 2007, you're looking at an $8 million tax roll. And that's these are delinquent tax rolls, correct?
This is the roll we turn over to our delinquent tax attorneys on July 1st.
Okay. So if you could, and I don't know if we can call up after your presentation, we can call up the current tax firm to answer some of these questions. But it does seem to me that they were given a $7 million delinquent tax roll, and they were able to reduce it to $4 million, which is significant when you compare it to all those years. No other tax firm ever brought it even close to 4 million. So I would say that's a good indicator that the current tax firm is doing not just a good job, but an excellent job. And that's just a comment from me. I know you can't comment on that, but go ahead with your presentation.
So the next slide really is about the lawsuits filed. So as our delinquent tax attorneys in their contract, they are given the authority, I guess, to file on our behalf some litigation, whether it's a lawsuit filed or if it's an intervention. So what you're seeing here is the lawsuits filed by our attorneys, again, in the last 20 years. And I guess the importance, of the lawsuits is that even though our community has always been really good about paying their taxes, and you'll see from Mr. Flores's monthly collection report, finance report, where we strive to get to, 96, 97% collection from our current levy. We do know that the 3 to 4% that haven't been collected that year, our delinquent tax attorneys are going to have to either make calls to these individuals or actually go out there and file lawsuits. And, I think, it's a tribute to our community that they have been paying their taxes. Lawsuits are important because I believe that once you stop filing lawsuits, do you have a community out there that feels I don't have to pay my taxes, they're not going to come after me? Of course, as a district, we do have what do you call our stake in a bankruptcy. We have our cause protected, and so you do want your attorneys to be on top of it. They are given our role. They're given. I know with our current tax firm and the tax firm before ours. They actually shared the software with us. They invested in our tax software so they could see real-time balances and share with our staff, notes about collections. So we thought that was very key in keeping that type of partnership. Again, the last two firms did that for us and invested in our software. So we think that's very key because that's millions of dollars that are being turned over to them. And then they're collecting on our behalf at their offices. So things like that, working with a delinquent tax firm who's able to study the role and find out who is still collectible, finding out from our community what's going on, why haven't they been able to pay? And then, the situation with the pandemic, did our shopping center suffer? Did our mall suffer? Just kind of keeping tabs of all those accounts.
Okay,
Can I ask you a question? During what period of time did USD have the highest delinquent collection rates in your tenure as controller, or before you? I guess you
You've been here a long time.
when was the highest?
I have to say, Mr. Montemayor, that honestly, our focus on the current levy, we've always been able to historically in our budget process, actually with all, I guess, confidence that our taxpayers are going to pay. So our collection rate has been pretty steady in the high 90s, 97, 98%.
Talk about delinquent.
The delinquent tax, I think, you could see the variation of the different percentages. We tend to kind of budget conservatively just in case, right? But we do budget a certain percentage. I think it ranges from 53 to 55% that we expect the roll to be collected.
If you go back to your prior
If
presentation,
you go back to the plan.
if you go back to, let's see, go to 2017, 2018, what number is that as far as percentage?
The percentages you could see in the third column, and the way that's calculated
But
is
I'm asking you, what number is that?
the one for 2017 is 58.4, and the one for 2018 is 84.
I'm looking at 84.41%. And I'm looking at 1819, 69. Looking at during the pandemic, 73.95. I'm looking at 2012, 2013, 70.89. I'll ask you again, what firm collected the highest percentages of what you turned over to them? Out of the three that you listed there, what firm do you have collecting the highest?
Well, those specific collection rates that you pointed out, Mr. Montemayor, were collected by our current firm, Alarcon and Science.
Okay, now grade them for me, ma'am, since you're the financial expert for this district. If A is being the highest grade you give to the Alarcon and Science firm, or D being the lowest, what grade would you give the Alarcon and Science firm?
Well, in our
It's
report
pretty
card,
simple. I think we all know
in
it,
our
right?
report cards, you know, 90, but,
And that affects your financial report card as well, right? If they were doing poorly, then this district would probably reflect poorly as well. That's not true?
it would in a sense where
It would
we do
probably-
count a certain percentage in our budget cycle. And I think that's where we said that we kind of budget about 55% to be on the safe side because of the economic issues of our community,
Sure.
border closures,
And
pandemic.
even given that, even when you're budgeting conservatively at 55%, looking at what the pandemic brought in 2019, 2020, you're at what right now? Just on your numbers alone, I see 73.95%. Now, if you look back at the prior firms, isn't that an outstanding accomplishment? Isn't that an outstanding performance by the current firm? Compared to,
Percentage wise, yes, I mean, that is a good
now,
amount.
if you go to the prior presentation, the prior
The one after
exhibit that
this?
you had, yeah,
The one after this, the lawsuits.
Yeah. So how many lawsuits did the prior firm 8 years file?
Our records indicate in the 8-year period, it was over 1,000 lawsuits filed, 1,119.
And so we're talking about our community, we're talking about funds that come into the general fund for our students, what we're able to operate on, teacher pay raises, we're talking about operational expenses, facilities, employees, bus drivers, complete operations. So would you say that the collection of taxes is an important function for the district?
For our district, because of the way we're funded and our wealth of values per student, you know, any taxes collected is very important because we do have our debt to pay back, and then we do have to, I mean, we're kind of like a 50-50
Sure.
district.
So the state pays us if we have a poor tax collection, not only delinquent, we have a poor tax collection, the state will penalize the district and maybe not fund us as much because our collections is not as high, or there's not functioning properly. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say that part of the revenue that's probably not generated by our students, that they allow us to maybe do a couple more pennies, could bring in more state revenue
So-
if we collect that.
So strong delinquent tax collection firm is important.
In the eyes of the state, yes, because they expect our local tax effort. That's what we've always heard whenever we study our state revenue template, is that it is important to have a local tax effort.
I have a question for Alarcon and Science.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Members of the
Mr.
board, Mr. Santos, the public. My name is Alberto Alarcon. I am one of the members of the Alarcon and Science tax firm. We are the current delinquent tax firm for the district.
Mr. Alarcon, based on the information that Ms. Benavides just presented, it would seem to me that if I was an attorney and I had the tax firm, I would want to do what the previous tax firm did, which was Mario Castillo and Associates. I would file very few lawsuits because that would mean that I would make more money off the interest that is owed by delinquent taxpayers. Is that correct?
Yes, let me explain that to you. When Ms. Oliveros, if you were to ask me, what is the primary goal of a delinquent tax firm for a school district? And everybody would say, well, you know, the more money you collect, the better. But that is not a very accurate answer. The more accurate answer is our role is to reduce the delinquent tax roll over the years as much as possible. that only means the inverse. It means that the current tax roll was higher, if we can do that. So if you were to ask me, the real measure of performance is looking at the delinquent tax roll over the years. The higher the tax roll, the less there's a correlation between effort and the delinquent tax roll. The higher tax roll, you can say there was less effort but more money to collect for the firm. And the inverse is true. The lower the tax roll, the more effort. If you look at, the administration apparently prepared a table, which I don't know if you have it in the PowerPoint, that has the number of lawsuits.
Oh, I think it was the one we were
The
on.
previous one.
That one?
No, there's another one. There's a chart that pretty much describes that. I have it here.
But tell us what that
Okay,
chart
well,
demonstrates.
it explains that to see the correlation, you have the prior 8 years before we had the contract, 1,119 lawsuits were filed. When we got the contract, in the same 8-year period, we filed 5,161, which is 500% more. If you look, there's another chart that administration prepared, and I don't know if you have it, but it would show you what happened during those 8 years when there was very little effort as compared to ours. The delinquent tax roll skyrocketed. You had years of 8 million. You had a year of 9.6 million. I don't know if that's a record high, but it was very high. You have
Was that was
if
prior
you
to?
go to the table where it shows the amounts,
The
you
one
can see
previous to this. Okay, there
you
you go.
can see there the second column is the delinquent tax roll, and you can see the prior 8 years starting at 7.8, then 8, 8.2, 8.1, 8.9, 9.6, and 7.4. You compare that to the years we've had it, and we brought it down. Our highest was the first one, which is 7.5, and it went to 6, 6, 5, 6, 6, 4.8, 4.8, and 6. There is, I believe, a direct correlation between the effort and the size of the delinquent tax roll. Now, why is that important? That impacts the state revenue, as Ms. Benavides said. School financing formulas are very complicated, but one component of those financing formulas is the tax collection effort, both regular and delinquent. The better the tax collection effort, the more state funding you get. The less state funding you get. As I understand it, UISD has the highest collection rate, both current and delinquent, in the city, and possibly one of the highest in the state. Their current tax collection rate at this time is above 98%, and that correlates to the lower delinquent tax roll that we see.
On those lines, if I'm not mistaken, was not the previous Ms. Faribault, was she once awarded something for that, for having great
Yes,
collection?
I think it was in 2015 or 2016.
Okay.
Ms. Faribault was given an award for reaching 98 point something. It is my understanding that our current tax collection rate is higher than that. I think we're close to 99%.
So the district stands to receive another award
right.
for your efforts.
And so
And for the
the smaller the tax collection, The smaller the delinquent tax collection roll you see, obviously the higher the current tax collection was. And that benefits the district because the state wants the district to put every effort to collect taxes. The more effort they put, the more we get rewarded with matching funds from the state. We believe that our role, it could be easy, very easy for us not to do anything. And that would skyrocket and we would make more money. But it's not about us, it's about the district. We are very proud of the work we have done for the district in the last few years. And we are very proud that we are an integral part in the current rate that the board has in tax collection.
I guess what you're trying to say is the harder you work as a tax attorney, you're kind of working yourself out of a job. If you didn't work, you'd be making more money.
Right.
If you file less lawsuits like the previous tax firm, you're making more money and the district isn't.
Right. We lawyers have an obligation to zealously represent our clients above our interests. And that's what we've done. We're making less money because we're doing a lot of work.
Because you're working hard.
This is one of the few jobs that one can say the less you do, the more you make.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you,
Any other questions?
Mr. Alarcon. Okay, thank you very much. So can I ask for the record who sponsored this, the item to not review?
You're talking about agenda item 6C?
Correct.
The board book has it listed as Mr. Belize, Mr. Molina, and Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay, so I have a question for them. Based on the presentation that we all listened to, it seems to me like not only is this a good performing tax firm, but it's probably the best one we've ever had. So my question to those three board members is, what is your reason for putting it on the agenda? Were there numbers that you didn't like? And their names for the record?
I have a couple of questions.
Mr. Belize, Mr. Molina, and Mr. Rodriguez.
Do they not have a comment?
Is Mr. Castillo?
Mr. Castillo, I'm asking a question to the three who.
Oh, so I had a question about the report.
Let's make sure they don't have a comment, and then I guess we can go to your question.
Mr. Molina, do you have a comment, or Mr. Rodriguez?
Who?
Mr. Molina, if you have a comment, I think Ms. Oliveros is asking if there's a comment based on why the item was put on the as an agenda item for today. Do you have a comment on that, on as far as item 6C?
I don't have no comment.
No comment, okay. Mr. Rodriguez? I'm not sure if he's still on or not.
Here we go. Yes, I'm looking at the
Mr.
variables and I saw the numbers. Alisa, I'm responding to your response. The only thing I didn't take off my mute, but we're looking at the numbers and I saw your all's numbers and I saw what you all are doing, and it's good. But I mean, I think you know, all the firms, and I congratulate every firm that's been there, because I think we've always had collections and all the collections are good. I mean, maybe some of the numbers can be maybe altercated on some of the ways they've been collecting, but I did some of the figures also, and you know, the numbers are misleading in some way or another, but I think all firms have been doing a great job, and it's just, you know, that's our decision that we want to do, and we just decided to put it in the agenda.
Yeah, I think performance-wise, I first of all, I take offense to you saying that district personnel may have skewed numbers. That's highly offensive, and I disagree with you for the record. Secondly, I trust district employees, and I trust the numbers they presented. I don't think the state would agree with you, Mr. Rodriguez, and so I find that placing this item on the agenda, in my opinion, is strictly political. I don't, performance-wise, there's nothing there.
And it's not political. I think it's like it's your opinion, it's my deal. But yeah, you know what? And I just think, you know what? Let's put it up through the vote, and we're ready. Let's see what happens.
If you want to put it up to the vote, the right thing to do for your constituency is fill out for bids, not to just name a firm, but again.
No, and I think what we want to do is, and I'll tell you, Mr. President, can I make the motion to put up for the vote?
Oh, no, we're in a report right now.
No, I think we'll still finish that presentation or that item.
Because
and then
here,
we'll go
I think
into-
what we're discussing is, they want to know what we want to do. I mean, and I think, well, if that's what they want to do, just let's finish this agenda, the presentation, and then let's go straight to the vote.
I'm hoping that council will tell us that we need to be careful with the word "we," because "we" is 7 people here. That's a little dangerous.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Rodriguez was probably, mentioning the 2 additional sponsors.
Unless y'all have voted already, and I wasn't aware of it.
There hasn't,
Nobody's put a vote yet.
Right, so what we'll do is we'll finish this presentation item, which is the only item for information only, which is a presentation. And I think we'll go back. Mr. Castillo, I think you had a comment based on the presentation or a question?
Yes. Yes, it was just a reflection of why we didn't have the numbers of lawsuits filed by the Anda law firm. I don't know if those numbers were available or they just didn't do it. But still, you can see things both sides. Too many lawsuits, does that necessarily mean that they did a great job, or too many or too few lawsuits? Does that mean they're doing a better job? I'm not sure. That's why, the presentation is by the school district. It's really not for comment by anybody else, but it's really by the school district telling us that. And so I rely on what the school district tells me. And one of the things that I saw was that there was no numbers of lawsuits. And again, I don't know what their particular view is. I'm talking about the school district. When you have too many lawsuits versus not enough. I think it's a gray area, in my opinion. And I kind of agree with Mr. Rodriguez. You can navigate numbers, use a more diplomatic term, to try to prove your point. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
And I can respond to that, Mr. Castillo. I think Ms. Benavides clearly stated that lawsuits were important. And I think Sanders clearly stated that if you don't do lawsuits, the tax attorney earns more money. So it's a self-interest there. It's kind of like he said at the end, Mr. Alarcon said at the end, the less you do, the more money you make. The less you're taking from the taxpayer, Mr. Castillo, the less money you're taking from the people in your constituency who pays taxes. And if that's what you agree with, then that's what you agree with. I don't.
So
I wanted to see mediation, perhaps, how many were actually mediated to settle, or perhaps the last thing we want to do, at least me as a board member, is to kick anybody out of their home, quite honestly. That's how I see this picture. And so take it as it may, that's my particular point of view.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garcia. Any other comments on the presentation that was done by the district? If not, so we can move on to the individual items for consideration. All right, so we'll move on to items for individual consideration. Item A would be.
Mr. President, if you mind, can I make a motion?
Let us go. It's only a short list on the individual considerations. So we can go through that. Does it pertain to one of the items, or would it be?
Actually, no. Actually, I want to make a motion through all the items. I want to make a motion to approve all the items, A through E.
Okay, do we have legal counsel there that, is that something that we can go through A through E then and then make a motion for that? Or if that does not pass, go individually then, or?
Yes, you can do that. Mm-hmm.
There's a motion on the floor.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Rodriguez to be item A through E for approval. Is that correct, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
Second, Ricardo Molina.
We have a second by Mr. Molina. Any discussion on that particular agenda or that motion?
I do have discussion. I like to see it individually. I think we need to address each individual.
Vote on that.
That's my discussion.
Okay, so, all right, so all in favor for Mr. Rodriguez, motion to approve, and second by Mr. Molina to approve item A through E. If I can have them Vote, all in favor?
Aye. Molina?
That'll be Mr. Molina and obviously Mr. Rodriguez. And all against?
Against.
Aye, Castillo.
Ramirez, aye.
Mr. Ramirez and myself, I think motion dies, so we'll go individually. So we'll go to item A is discussion and possible action for the imposition of a hiring freeze on all directors / principals and such positions. That's the way it's worded here.
I move that we table that item.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion for tabling by Mr. Castillo,
Second motion.
second by Elisa, correct? By Mr. Oliveros?
Yes, and Mr. Montemayor just mentioned that he has I believe a counter motion.
I have a motion to deny item A.
All right, so we'll go with a second.
We'd have to roll on, we'd have to see if there's a second on the
Second.
counter.
All right, so for legal counsel, there's a question that we have, like in this case, Mr. Oliveros, second on both. Would that be allowed? And we go with the counter motion first?
Correct.
Yes.
You go with the second motion first, which is Javi's motion.
All right, so let's vote on that second motion, which would be a.
What's the motion on? For
The-
what's
This will be
Javi's motion?
for the counter motion by Mr. Montemayor to deny. Is that correct, Mr. Montemayor?
Reject, deny.
Reject, deny item A, and we have a second by Ms. Olivero. So do we have any further discussion on that counter motion?
Yes, and the reason with Mr. Montemayor.
And I think what the reason why was there, we were waiting for, and I think it was worded a little bit wrong. I think when the way they should have put it there, this should have been only just a temporary freeze because it's just till the new superintendent came in, and then he did his own changes.
Right.
Which that's the only reason, but it was worded wrong.
Yeah.
So I think maybe with that, I can agree with Mr. Castillo on it, to table that till it gets worded right, but that's not the wording it was supposed to be. All of this
Correct.
is
All right, so, okay. Ms. Olivero, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I don't believe that in the district's best interest at this point, and having discussed this with administration, there are some very important positions that need to be filled immediately. So for that reason, for the interest of the students that we serve, I support Mr. Montemayor's motion.
All right, so let's vote on that.
I'd like to comment on as
Yes.
superintendent.
Yes,
I
go ahead,
think
sir.
when you look at the different positions that currently we have in our district, which includes classroom teachers, counselors, librarians, nurses, it is important that we move forward. Simply on the fact, I mean, we're a large district with a lot of vacancies that I know all the positions, Ms. Gonzalez and I have been working with HR on the interviews and staffing. And my recommendation would be, obviously, not to freeze the positions.
That's right. That's
Okay, thank you, Mr. Santos. Let's
We're
vote
still
on
in
that
discussion,
second motion.
correct? Are we
yeah.
still in discussion?
Yes, sir.
I'm just
Yes, we're still in
not
discussion,
too
yes, sir.
sure with Mr. Montemayor.
Mr. Montemayor, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr.
I know.
Castillo.
Yes, I was just trying to figure out, tabling the item would allow us not to consider it. I'm not too sure what he's asking for, to remove it. I mean, we can always bring it back in a month anyway. Not too sure why the wording is difficult, or maybe I don't understand things.
It's just my semantics, Mr. Castillo. That's all it is.
Right.
I don't think that, as part of the discussion, I don't think that the district should be freezing any directors or principals or any positions, even paraprofessionals or anything like that. Mr. Gonzalez is already involved in the day-to-day operations. He's transitioning now. I think that would basically, cut his feet from under him and tie his hands. There's vacancies all over the place that need to be filled in preparation for the fall. Now, I think you give Mr. Gonzalez, you freeze him now, and it's going to handicap the school district, and I just don't think it's in the best interest of United that we do that today.
And Javi, let me rebuttal you on that. I know that the district has done freezes before, and it's never affected the district. And you know what?
That was when we were in economic recessions. That's when we were.
But it still didn't affect the district. And I just feel that, Mr. Gonzalez does deserve the right to get his own people to do his own hiring. He's gonna be our new superintendent and within 30-something days. You know, and I just feel that if they can work hand in hand, I'm okay with it.
Mr. Gonzalez is here now. I'd like to hear from you.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
with all the respect to the members of the board, at this time, you know, I am transitioning Mr. Santos. And I will say, Mr. Rodriguez, I think you're right in saying that maybe the wording was not done correctly. But as a district, for us to freeze all non-instructional hires, I think that would hinder the daily operations of a district our size, especially when we have a jobber coming up on June 10th. We have other areas that we need to, the hiring freeze for all directors and principals, excuse me, I was looking at letter C. We look at letter A. I will be working as I have been with Mr. Santos. I know that recently we did a hiring in the construction side. Enrique Rangel, and the recommendations were done collaboratively. Mr. Santos, myself, Roy Rondon, and other members, Lada Benavides also involved. So again, maybe the wording was not done correctly. I see your objective, Mr. Rodriguez, but I can tell you confidently that we are working as one united district at this time.
So no,
I have a question for Mr.
With that
Cruz.
saying, I think I'm good. And I think, Mr. Castillo, I also agree with you, and Javi, I guess. With that saying, all in all, I mean, I agree with both of you. So I'm good with whatever y'all decide.
That's my question for Mr. Cruz is just, what's the difference between my motion and Mr. Montemayor's motion? Can you explain perhaps?
Good question. Yeah. Yes, no, that's a good question. Tabling basically means, Mr. Castillo, that it would come back in the future. Deny it basically does not first actually put it on the agenda. So it's just like Mr. Montemayor stated, but kind of what I'm hearing is probably, Ramiro, that you can take both A and B as motions to deny if maybe Mr. Montemayor wants to just make that as an amendment to the motion. That way you can dispense of agenda items, the first two.
Right. I have no issues. Mr. Montemayor, would you be open to amending that, rejecting both item A and B for your motion?
Yes, I'll amend my motion to include both A and B.
Second.
All right, so A and B, Ms. Oliveros would second that. I think we pretty much discussed all the points there. All those in favor for tabling or for rejecting agenda item A and B?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
We have
Ramirez, aye.
Mr. Javier,
Ramirez,
and I myself, Bellis,
Castillo.
Ramirez,
Rodriguez,
I as well,
Rodriguez also.
Castillo as well.
You can count me, Ramiro.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Rodriguez, I as well. All those against? All right, so the motion passes. Mr. Molina as well. So that was a unanimous vote. That's rejecting both A and B. There will be no hiring freeze. And I think,
No.
I
wanna have the freeze, in other words. I'm sorry.
okay, Mr. Molina was against it.
So then Mr. Molina would register to vote no on that.
Go no. Okay, all right. So Mr. Molina, no, and everybody else was.
So I'll remove your original motion. Is that okay? I can remove it, or is it automatically
Yes, sir.
removed?
It dissolves.
Well, it doesn't need to go back there, but it's fine. We could just note it as withdrawn for the record.
Okay.
Very good,
Withdrawn.
thank you.
All right, so with that, we'll move on to agenda item C, a discussion action to approve by resolution not to renew.
That one, Ramiro, then now I can make it for an individual vote that I want to make an approval on that one, to make a motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion, Mr. Rodriguez, to approve item 6C. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
The item negotiate with a law firm, a contract.
Yes,
You wanna
and I
name
do want to
the law firm?
mention, Mr. Cruz, that my law firm will be for picking would be the law firm of Mario Castillo Jr.
Okay.
Discussion.
That would be before the discussion, the motion would be to, would have to come back to the board in terms of the contract. If it passes, the contract
Right.
has to be negotiated and then come back to the board for approval.
Yeah, because this is just to not renew or not renew the current one. That's the only thing that we're discussing and approving.
Well, right now, Mr. Rodriguez's motion is actually to non-renew the current law firm, which, we were required to take action, according to the contract terms. And secondly is to name of the board's choosing would be the Mario Castillo law firm as well. So it's
Mr. Cruz,
Can we include that new one, even though it's not on the as an agenda item? The only way it's
Yes.
worded is to negotiate a new collection contract.
Yes, no, but
we can include it.
negotiate with Mario Castillo's law firm, yes.
Well, we haven't
Understand.
voted on any law firm, so I don't know why the name Mario Castillo is being said, but, first of all, I want discussion, and what I want to say to the public is this is very unfair to you, taxpayers. Any board member who votes for this item is not only discrediting administration based on the numbers that they presented in their report, but they are disrespecting you as a taxpayer. They are not allowing you the opportunity to have other law firms come and bid their services to the district. They are bypassing procedure and they're politically naming a firm. And you can do your research on that. For that reason, based on the numbers that prove that the current law firm is outperformed any previous law firm, I don't see any valid reason, not even lawsuits, because you're required by law to file lawsuits. If you don't do that, it's a personal gain for the tax attorneys. And because the public, I believe you deserve for us to have to listen to other law firms and give them an opportunity. For that reason, I will vote against it.
Well, it's your opinion, and I respect your opinion.
Okay.
A second motion I'm gonna do a sub-motion to deny C, to go against C, to take it, to delete it, take it off the agenda.
Okay, so a sub-motion by Ms. Oliveros to deny item 6C. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ramirez. All right, so let's do any discussion on that sub-motion or? All right, so all those in favor to deny 6C, that will be Ms. Oliveros, Mr. Ramirez, right?
Yes.
Montemayor.
Mr. Montemayor. All right, so we have 3 in favor, all those against? Do you have any against?
I am
Yes,
against.
against.
The sub,
I'm against.
For the sub-motion, against.
I'm against.
It's Rick against.
Again,
Castillo,
Molina,
Castillo, and Mr.
Molina.
Molina, and myself. So that motion, that sub-motion does not pass. So we'll go back to the original motion that Mr. Rodriguez has to not renew, and you mentioned to negotiate with Mr. Mario Castillo as far as a new tax collection contract. Do we have any further discussion on that, or you want to go?
I have a sub-motion.
Montemayor?
My motion is that if the board chooses to not renew the delinquent tax contract, that we go forward with request for qualifications, not only to include Mr. Rodriguez's firm, but any other firm that may be interested in collecting for this district.
Second, out of fairness to the public and other attorneys that are out there and to your constituents, I'll do it for you.
Okay, so we have a motion, another sub-motion by Mr. Montemayor, and second by Elisa to, if it's not renewed, to open it up for qualifications. Any discussion on that sub-motion?
Let me amend my motion.
Yes, sir. Oh, go ahead, sir.
My motion would be, Elisa's motion was to reject. My motion would be to renew the delinquent tax contract. And if that's not granted, then my motion would be that we go out for request for qualification.
Second,
All right, so an amended sub-motion to renew, and if not, to go out for qualifications if it's not renewed. Any discussion on that?
other than to say that I'm appalled with whoever does not vote for this. Again, I remind your constituency that this is blatant personal gain on your part.
Thank you. Noted, Ms. Oliveros. All those in favor, that will be Mr. Montemayor, Ms. Oliveros. All those against for that sub-motion?
Against. I'm against.
against Molina,
against Castillo,
I am for Montemayor and Alice.
Okay. Mr. Ramirez was for, so that's 3, and myself, aye, it's against, so that second sub-motion dies as well, does not pass. We'll go back to original motion by Mr. Rodriguez. is to not renew and to start negotiations with Mr. Castillo's law firm. All those in favor for that one, for that original?
Rick Rodriguez.
Hi, Molina.
Do you have a second?
Was there a second?
Yes, second.
Mr.
There had been a second by
Mr.
Mr. Molina.
Mr. Molina seconded.
Yeah, initially it had been second. So those in favor is Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Molina.
Discussion?
Are we voting? Are we voting?
We're
Having
voting
discussion.
out.
We have a first and a second, so
All right.
legally I have discussion. I
All right,
just want to
so further
remind
discussion. Yes, ma'am.
your constituency that you're playing with the students' financial gain for the district. And that you're doing this without any request for qualifications, allowing an opportunity for any other firm to come in and bid for this contract. Again, I will remind your constituency that you're doing this without going through proper procedure, which is very, very wrong, in my opinion.
Thank you. That's all right.
Yeah.
So that's discussion. Yes, ma'am. All right. So go back to the voting. We have Mr. Rodriguez with a motion, Mr. Molina, and the second. Those in favor was Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Molina.
Can you restate the motion, please, Mr. Rodriguez?
Mr. Rodriguez?
The board members could be confused, just make sure that we're on the same page.
I want to make a
Mr.
motion
Rodriguez.
to approve item C with the law firm of Mario Castillo to be our next tax office firm.
Second.
Okay, so we have that motion second.
I do have a question for council, one more
Call
question.
for a vote. Call for a vote, Ricardo Molina.
Council,
Ms. Oliveros has a question for legal.
if there is a, should a board member abstain from this if they have a relationship, not by blood, but otherwise, with the law firm that they are recommending?
There's only three
Like a religious
instances.
relationship?
Yeah. No, you have nepotism, you have the conflict of interest under 176 that basically, would require a disclosure and abstention. And then you also have, like, if you're selling land or you have some type of financial interest, if a board member owns part of the Castillo law firm, and receives 10% or more of his or her income from that law firm, then that would require a recusal from the vote or abstention. So unless that is out there.
Somebody's child, then that's not considered a relationship.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Call for a vote.
Yeah, we're still on the vote. So that's we have for approval. We have Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Molina. Who else is in favor?
Castillo.
Mr. Castillo in favor. And myself, Ellis, in favor. All those against?
Against?
Against.
Yeah. And Mr. Ramirez, your vote?
Against?
Against. So it's 4-3, motion passes. Item 6D, discussion and possible action on the creation of ombudsman office under the auspices of the school district's auditor's office and to answer to the school board.
Motion to deny, motion to table and deny.
Okay, motion, is it to table or to deny?
To deny.
To deny. Okay, so we have motion to deny by Ms. Oliveros. Do we have a second?
If I could get a second for discussion.
I thought Mr. Molina seconded.
Okay, Mr. Molina seconded. Yes, and the reason that I'm doing this is because I believe it's duplication of services with the current auditor's office. And we're talking about saving the district money. I don't think it's a necessary position.
All right, any other discussion on that item?
Well, this is very
Let's do
much something that I'm bringing myself before, perhaps not at this juncture. I think it's something that I had mentioned before to the rest, that the rest of the board members, particularly my colleagues, that I felt that the auditor's office needed expanding. I think it needed to have additional officers, perhaps, that allow people a venue to file either a complaint that's not a teacher. I'm talking about parents. I'm talking about the public, perhaps. And it would act like a clearinghouse and not necessarily an active, let me make a final decision type of a entity. So an ombudsman's office, if you research it, are all over the country. They're all over the country. They bring in the information that we as board members need to have. We might not know the details, but at least we'll have numbers. And you could break it down to schools, to departments, to areas that we don't have that information right now, as much as we like to think we have that with the auditors. I don't think we do. And so it is something that I believe that we need to expand. It would fall under the auditor's office because they would have a direct link to the board. And that's my comment.
Mr. Rodriguez, if I may?
Yes, yes, sir.
There is already, the education code provides for an avenue in which to file grievances, and that includes parents. It includes third parties, teachers, employees in any way. This board has made has been very active in resolving grievances. We have several levels of hearings that the administration has and the board listens to. We have certain limitations in what we can and cannot do. While I appreciate the idea at this point, Mr. Castillo, I think the ombudsman office needs a little more development. We need to talk about what parameters, because our internal auditor has certain functions, and to include that ombudsman without a description of what their duties and their responsibilities were to be. I know you have it in your head, and I can see that. I just, I think it's certainly a good idea to resolve grievances as quickly as efficiently as possible. And I think it's a great idea. I think this one, I would agree that we could probably table for further development, and that way we can bring it up. So I make a motion to table this one, sub-motion to Ms. Oliveros' motion.
Right.
And I'll second that, and I'll just say that if we're going to have duplication of services, I'd rather have it in the classroom.
Sure.
That's just my opinion.
Understand. Yeah, no, I'll agree with you guys on that one. I do think that we already have some avenues as far as not for any employees, but public in general or parents to come forward and submit obviously complaints or issues with the district or any particular employee. We might even have the ability to just reclassify somebody at our HR department and change the description of the duties to include anything that you're thinking on this one, Mr. Castillo. So
I know, thank you. I mean, I'm very much flexible to hear all the opinions, but I do know that in our last meeting, we just brought up a topic about how certain employees could be surveyed about how to address some of the things that's going on.
Right.
And so I don't want to be specific. I think we all know what we were discussing. I believe it was in closed session, but at the same time, that would be the avenue. This is what an ombudsman's office does. It's kind of like the Office of Public Integrity. They do this, and that's all I'm trying to do. But you know what? I can wait, and I can wait for another meeting, and maybe have some more time to explore it to your satisfaction. But in my mind, it's necessary. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. All right, so we'll vote on the sub-motion by Mr. Montemayor to table, second by Ms. Oliveros. All those in favor to table?
Aye.
I Velis as well.
I Ramirez.
Mr. Ramirez,
Aye, Molina.
Molina to table as well.
I'll abstain.
Mr. Castillo will abstain. All right, all those against? None against. Motion to table passes. And that would negate the first original motion. Is that correct, Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so that takes care of that one. And final item will be 6E, discussion possible action for the creation of new position within the UISD district police department. That's renaming assistant chief or naming assistant chief, which is a position I believe that does not exist.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. President.
So move. Second, I'm sorry.
I made the motion already. You can second if you'd like, Mr. Rodriguez.
All right, Mr. Oliveros makes a motion to approve. Second, we'll take Mr. Molina as a second. All those in favor, or any further discussion on this particular item? All those
I
in favor?
just wanted
Hi,
to,
Molina.
Go ahead, Mr. Castillo.
no, I was just
Oh,
going
sorry,
to say
Mr.
that I know that we're creating a new position. Here we go again. It happens. That's what the challenge is before us. We create a new position. We got to find funding. We got to find out what they're going to be doing or not doing. Not sure if I understand everybody's logic, but for me, I think it's too early to do that. But so be it. If that's the majority will, I will go with the majority.
And to your comment, Mr. Castillo, I agree with you on the previous item C. I can't make logic of your all's decision, so welcome to my world.
We're in the same world.
I don't know if this is a reclassification or a new position.
I think it is. I think that's I'm not sure if I got worded correctly here, but as far as my understanding, speaking to Chief Gardner, the idea here is to a current position to reclassify to assistant chief of police and not to create a brand new one. Is that correct? I'm not sure Mr. Santos can answer to that one.
That's what I understood.
Well, I know Chief came and approached me earlier. Obviously, the board, were able to freeze, I guess, going to reclassification. So, I mean, if that's the route that the board wants to go, we'll visit with Chief and I'll visit with David Gonzalez and we'll look at possible reclassification.
I mean, with the board, I think we're all, I don't know, but my understanding is that it's a reclassification and my motion would be, at this point, reclassify the position of captain, if I'm not mistaken.
Captain, yes.
To assistant chief.
I second your motion, Javi.
Approves it without us having to come back to the board. I mean,
I think that's the intent, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. I think we can do that, and that would avoid bringing it up in a further meeting. So, Mr. Cruz, can we amend what we see here as an item and specifically mention that it will be a reclassification of the current captain position, not a new creation there within that police department? Is that how it would be worded? Is that accurate?
Yes. Basically to reclassify the assistant or the captain position into the assistant chief position. Yeah.
Great. Okay. All right. So, we'll have a motion for that. Then, Mr. Montemayor, is that the motion you would have?
I second it.
Motion, a second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye, Vélez.
Aye, Ramirez.
Aye, Rodriguez.
Hi, Molina.
All those against? All right, none against. Motion passes. With that, we move to adjournment. Time is 1:04 p.m. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Do want to remind that graduations are starting today. We have Alexander graduation today. Hope to see everybody there and for the next following day. Thank you.